Alright, more updates on video game stuff. This is a dungeon generator that I made in the last 2 days based on some of the code that's already existing, using a little ego guy from AGS as a placeholder. As you can see, we're in a dungeon room, and you click on the doorways, and you can go into hallways and explore a dungeon. And you'll notice up here, it's developing a map. So you can find your way around, and the green area is where you started, the gray areas are hallways, and the red areas are other rooms, dungeon rooms, essentially. And so, and then down here, you'll see this percentage thing going up. That's how much of the dungeon you've explored, which this is going to prove to be a pretty big dungeon considering the size. I've only done, I'm working on an 8x8 grid space. So there's not a whole lot of room. Like, it's not going to take forever to roam these dungeons, but even at this rate that it's going, where it's about 2 or 3% per screen, that's a pretty big dungeon for the model, at least. And then you can go back, and it keeps track of your stuff, and it remembers everything, you know. So it's similar to the City Engine. It's similar to some other dungeon things I was doing, but this time it actually has the hallways that produce them. Before, I had the way this worked was, let's say on this grid up here, the green dot is you would place that room, and then you just start generating rooms around that room, and then just making doors for each thing, kind of a Binding of Isaac way. This one works kind of differently, in which it places. It's a little bit more roguelike, where it will place rooms across the board, but it won't connect any of them, and it will intentionally not connect rooms together. And then it will find two rooms on the grid that are not connected, or, well, it will find a room that's not connected and connect it to something, either a hallway or another room that's already been connected by terms of hallway status. That makes no sense now that I'm saying it out loud, but it's okay. I'm just ranting. Nobody watches these anyway. So yeah, this is a massive map, and you can see the hallways change every time. Which actually, let me get to. So in this one, good example of here, four directions. You can kind of walk on each of these paths. But it's the same room. I mean, it's the same stuff, just each part of the hallway. See, now this is just disappeared. I put a wall here. I took away that walking ability, which, I mean, taking away the walking ability is the easiest part. Trying to line up all this stuff so it looks cohesive and looks like you're actually going through hallways of a dungeon is slightly more tricky. And so, and then sometimes it'll change, and now this is all blocked off, but it's still the same position. You can still, and it kind of jumps on the wall. And yeah, there's like a little glitch right there where I don't know if you go back and watch this corner right here was lined up perfectly to look normal, but now it's offset when you walk into it. Yeah, like that. If you walk up to it, it freaks out kind of, and if you walk away, it goes back to normal. Very strange. I don't know what's causing that, but an easy fix probably. And yeah, this is how the dungeon thing works, and this is going to be the base engine of something. I was thinking about taking Tiny Knight and bringing that back, but not Tiny Naked Knight like the original idea was, but there was a Tiny Paper Knight idea that I was throwing around, in which the dungeon itself takes place inside of a notebook. Like all the brown background here is actually going to be like college ruled lines of a notebook, and all of this is going to be inked in with, you know, ballpoint pen that you use for class or something like that, or, you know, markers and stuff instead of actual just normal looking colors. And then the main character is going to be like, you know, drawn, but, you know, cut out from a post-it note or something, so he can kind of bounce around. Same with the monsters. I thought that idea was kind of a little bit more interesting to look at than just a kind of a standard pixel art isometric, you know, dungeon Hero Quest-esque dungeon explorer, and offers, I don't know, a different take on the dungeon exploring idea. I mean, it's not different. It's like Knights of Pen and Paper or something, but just my take on how like Knights of Pen and Paper. It's dungeon crawling and pen and paper, you know. And so, yeah, I don't know. I figured I'd just keep generating a few more of these. If you restart, I don't have it on a like a resetter. Like the reset is you actually reset the game. So if or to make it possible to leave this dungeon and enter a new dungeon, I would have to completely reset it. And now I don't have all the facets in yet. Although with this one, so the number of rooms is what makes it a big map or a small map. And as you can tell, the percentage on this is going way faster per room. And so it's a larger map. It can go as low as 3 rooms, including the starting room. So just like sometimes it's just a hallway, a very long hallway with rooms in between, and other times it can be as high as 15 rooms, in which case pretty much every part of the map is taken over by hallways and rooms. So it depends. Depends on how it's going to go. And if I were to make the paper night game, I would make it progressive. Like the first dungeon you go into has 3 rooms, and it's very simple. No bosses or anything like that. Just standard monsters. Then as you progress, the levels get more and more intense. I might actually bump the range, the array from 8x8 to something larger. I don't want to. I like the size of this map right there. I think it looks good, and it plays simply. I don't really feel like I should overthink the map. Although it's one of those. I mean, I could expound on it and do something else with it. Maybe, I don't know. We'll figure it out. It really was just like a sudden like, oh, let's do this and see if we can make a map out of it. And it's just in game, like in engine drawing and that kind of stuff. So very simple, not too overthought. Did exactly what I wanted it to do while also being big enough to actually see, which is also important because my original idea was having be 1 pixel large, and I mean this is a 320 by 200, so that's not that big of a deal. It still shows up, but I wanted it to actually be visual. Like this exact size was what I was like, oh yeah, it should look like a mini map in the corner, like Diablo or something. And so I guess this map is bigger than I thought, and we're only 60% through. And what else? Yeah, so the rooms can be populated with just random stuff, treasures. You'll probably get treasure from the room. And hallways will have, tidbits here and there, some blockades or something. I don't know, something to keep the player at bay and impede its progress. And the idea, I was going to have it to the point where you could actually get stuck on a dungeon and actually just have to leave because you don't have the necessary stuff to proceed. Like one of those doors in those locked rooms, or eventually these hallways are actually going to have doors to represent that it's not just a continuation of the hallway, that it's actually a room. And some of them will be locked, others will be barricaded or something like that. Sometimes there might be rubbish in the middle of the room. You gotta figure out how to get that out of the way. Kind of like how Darkest Dungeon is, where sometimes problems occur, but it's not going to be as. I wanted to be more whimsical than Darkest Dungeon because it's a very bleak game. Like a lot of people go dark fantasy, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't hate dark fantasy. Not far from it. I love dark fantasy. I just don't want to do another dark fantasy game. I'd rather do something whimsical, really. For lack of a current better word, could I continue going this way? I don't know. But yeah, let's do one more generation. This is really just me enjoying the generator and how it just reacts. I think the smallest dungeon I saw was about seven rooms, like hallways and rooms and stuff. Just 3 rooms, the bare minimum, and it was surprisingly intricate. You can get a lot of intricate design. Sometimes it's like everything's a hallway just mixed with the room, so it's a lot of 4-way paths and that kind of thing. But other times you can get some long corridors to kind of increase the tension and what have you. And it's, I want to say after this, probably try and get some sort of battle engine going, because that's the one thing that I don't really have pegged down. That's like a real, like of all the stakes that I've been cooking on this thing, like the level builder is probably the one I've worked on most. But like the battle engine and like the RPG element, like that's another big thing that I gotta factor in, and it's still not finished. So the battle engine, I have more of a or no, the RPG elements, I mean, I have more of an understanding of how those are going to work. These all still say 3, which seems like a rather large one. I want to see what one will look like if it's like at 5. Slightly better. Like, you can gauge with this percentage saying how big the dungeon is going to be based on the starting percentage. If it's at 3 or 2, it's going to be very big. If it's at 10, it's going to be super small. And in this case, it's probably going to be about an average, like a normal thing. Normal size map. Yeah, it's going up by the 4s. So yeah, Battle Engine is the big deal, because I don't have any of that figured out. Well, I did Pompadour Pete, and I did a few others that had Battle Engine stuff, and I fucked around with that. Fucking Pompadour Pete was before I even was fucking around with arrays and everything like that. Like all of this is built on very complicated arrays that I just did not understand at the time. And so yeah, now that I understand, it'll be a lot easier to have multiple people in one battle using, intricate, magic users using magic, thieves sneaking around, attacking people, healers healing, fighters fighting, all that shebang. And I want it to be designed so the enemies have to follow the same rules as you, which means if you can kill them easily, they'll probably be able to kill you easily also. So it's going to be tough as nails, which is what I want, but it's not going to be dark fantasy. That is, it's not overdone. It's just I don't think I want to do a dark fantasy of this. It'd be much more fun to do a silly pen and paper looking type game where it's just kids sitting over a lunch table being like, "Oh, you want to play this new game I have? I made it with my notebook." So we'll see how it goes. It could go whatever direction. It's whatevs. I'm just relishing in this little generator of mine. I just like looking at the map. And then in turn, boss fights will be just added onto the thing. It's all on the to-do list. The 3 major things that I have to do is get a dungeon generator up, which, bada bang, here it is. Get a role-playing element figured out, like how I want to handle it. So I definitely, as much as I was talking about, oh, there we go, we're at 100. As much as I was talking about dark fantasies and stuff, it's the leveling up system in Dark Souls and Bloodborne is probably my favorite, where you get to choose the pacing. And it's going to be, as far as everything goes, like you just building quests to go on, or like finding quests to go on, you making your own adventurers guild to train new recruits and stuff like that. All of that's going to be in the thing. Job class system, that's another big deal that I got to have in, because I got to have my job class system. I got to have my summoners and crazy summons to do, which that would be fun to do. That's a long ways down. I still have a lot of work to do. So this, I think, is as much as I'm currently gonna. I think I'm gonna switch gears to a battle engine of some kind, and this will take a breather, because it's functional. It's working just fine. He teleports into the center of the room every time he enters this, because I don't have that part done, but it doesn't matter because it's still working just fine and perfectly. And yeah, after that I'll make the leveling up system and the making heroes and how the town works, because I'm probably gonna have a town that you rebuild, because I love that aspect of Dark Cloud 2. So all of this going. All this nice. I'm happy with all this. This will be good. So that's it for this update, I guess. So